All right, so Christian, I'll do a quick intro and then I'll let you take it away. Sound good?
Great. hmm
Everyone, so my name is Catherine and I'm with eXp Realty. And we started doing these meetups with real estate agents, mainly in Manhattan, but we also own agents across the country. Uh, to really connect and learn from each other, right? I think I've been in real estate now for 5 years, and I've always learned the most from my colleagues or people that are out in the field working with buyers and sellers and renters and landlords more than an office manager or even my broker, right? Because we're out doing this, living it every day. And so we've been getting together once a month and sharing best practices, collaborating on things that we can be doing to grow our business. And that has now turned into a monthly mastermind. So we do masterminds around how you can market your business better, create lead gen for yourself. And our mastermind this month is with Christian Berry, an absolute expert in a board package. He even has a business offering agents a service to help you with your board packages and purchase applications. So I will let Christian take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine. Excited to be here to talk about something that people usually don't want to talk about, which is preparing like co-op and condo packages. I mean, to be honest, for most, it's not a fun process. It's complicated. There's a lot of intricacies. But I think that setting yourself up sort of and having a plan to prepare your client, to prepare yourself, giving yourself like a framework, a process can kind of take a lot of the stress out of it. Just to know, look, here's what I'm going to do, ABC, go through each step of the way. There's a lot of steps to it. It's one of those things where one thing has to happen first before the next thing can happen, right? Like we got to be in contract, then, they're waiting for their commitment letter, then we can submit that, through the whole thing from point A to point B to point A to point Z and to closing. So I thought what I would do today is just to go through like my process. It utilizes just kind of like ways to organize yourself, ways to talk to your client, ways to prepare your client, and then like some of the digital tools in terms of like actually assembling the package, which I think a lot of people can get lost. Like they're sending me these statements and they're sending me this, and what do I do? How do I compile all this and present it? So I'll kind of walk through it, and feel free to interrupt me if you have a question. We'll do like a Q&A at the end. But if there's something that you want me to stop and dive into a little bit more, feel free to just jump in. So I'm sharing my screen with you. So we're going to kind of cover these points here. Like I said, being prepared and having a plan. First step would be just like breaking down what the application is, because every one of these is different, right? Every building, every managing agent, none of them are the same, really. Some of it comes from the managing agent. Here's the kind of package we recommend. And then each building has custom details. So preparing yourself first, then talking to your buyers, sending them an introductory email. Here's what we need. And then each point, each requirement, knowing what to say out of them, because the better you can direct them to give you the information in the right way, the easier it will be for you to like pull everything together, right? And then we're going to work on creating a master PDF of the package. So basically, it gives you something to share with the listing agent, right? Because everything goes through the listing agent before it goes on to the managing agent. So it's an easy shareable document. And then nowadays, post-COVID, a lot of these managing agents will accept just an emailed or Dropbox PDF, like the days of like, one original and 6 copies. And even if it says it on the application these days, a lot of times you can just reach out to them and they'll say, yeah, send me the PDF. Like, who wants the paper anymore? And we are talking about here, I'm going to focus on like a full co-op package, not board packager, not like a condo package. We'll talk about the hardest one, which is basically like a co-op printed and delivered package. Some of this stuff applies to board packager, which you'll see a lot, and I'll talk about that. But the beginning part, setting up and getting your client prepared, that's going to be like, for all kinds of packages. And then we'll chat a little bit about like exchanging information, how to have your clients send you everything, talking about like security with them, passwords on documents, secure ways to send things, redacting, things like that, because obviously the protection of people's personal information is very important for you to be aware of, and then they're thinking about it, obviously. And then another one, which is always fun, is like handling the listing agent feedback. Once you deliver that or send that draft to the listing agent, they love to pick it apart and tell you to do this and that. So how do you deal with that? You listen to them on everything. Where do you push back? You're representing the buyer here in the situation, so you want to protect them a little bit, not just have them do some more unnecessary work. So what's the first step? So you've got a signed contract, awesome. Deal has been made, and you're ready to move on to the next step, right? So to me, there's three documents that you need to just get on your desk to get started: your deal sheet, the contract of sale, and then the purchase application. And with these three things, you'll be able to have all the information you need to start your client out to get the package together. So on the deal sheet, just make sure you have all the information, right? Like generally the listing agent is putting together the deal sheet. It doesn't always have the right managing agent information, or like the managing agent name that they put on the deal sheet is like the manager of the building person. And it's not like the actual transfer agent at ACAM or Century or whoever. That's the person that you need to ask the questions to, the person you need to submit the package to. So make sure you have that information right. Is there a gift involved in this purchase? Like, what are is there anything special about the deal that you need to know about? Obviously, if it's financed, if it's all cash. So just understanding the deal, you made the deal. So, you probably know most of those details, but just make sure you have everything that you need on the deal sheet or collect that information. The next would be just to look at the contract. A lot of people don't actually review it. I'm not saying you have to read through it all in detail. It's a boilerplate document. I mean, once you've seen one, you know where to look for everything. But there's a couple of key points. The names of your buyers. So you may know them as John Smith, but on the package and for the sale, for the shares of the co-op, their name may be Jonathan William Smith, right? So you want to make sure that all of the information that you're entering or they're entering into the application or wherever matches what's on the contract. So that's one thing to check out. The other thing is like confirming the maintenance. So the deal sheet, when someone posts a listing, they ask the seller, hey, what's your maintenance? And they get the maintenance, they enter it into the RLS, Street Easy, and then maintenance may change. It may be updated. A lot of people have it on auto pay and they don't know. So sometimes during the deal, the maintenance gets corrected. So make sure you have the right maintenance. That would be listed in the contract. And then also the shares if it's a co-op. Sometimes that doesn't go on the deal sheet, and that's usually a line on the application, number of shares. And then I think most importantly with the contract is to understand like, when is my board package due, right? Because you've got to set up, you've got to manage your client's expectations. Like how fast do we have to do this, right? So if it's a cash deal, you want to look for, there's a line in the contract or section that says corporate documents. And that basically addresses when they need to submit their board package. If it's a cash deal, it's generally going to be 10 or 15 business days. So in a cash deal, you got to move fast, right? They've got to get you everything pretty quickly for you to be able to compile everything. You want to be having them getting their reference letters right away, because that could take a while for people to come back. So that's one thing to understand. And the other one is a finance deal. And the first part you want to look at with a finance deal is, when is the commitment letter due? Because the board package due date will always be a function of when the commitment letter is due. So it could be 30 days from the contract date, or 45 days. So at the top of the contract, you can see right here, it says this contract is made of November 29th, blah, 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 blah. That's your contract date. So if it's a 30 calendar day commitment date, that means they need their commitment letter by December 29th. And then standard for the package submission is generally 3 or 5 business days after the commitment date. So obviously you want to be making sure your client is, working hard on their loan. Did the appraisal happen? Kind of be paying attention to what's going on with the loan. But more importantly, you want them to be able to gather everything within that commitment period. So you have everything ready to go. Once the commitment letter comes in, you're just adding that in. Your Aztec agreements, your appraisal, your loan application, all that is like the last piece, because you have the commitment period as your run up, so to speak, like your time to get ready. So you want to kind of let them know. And I always say too, like, please confirm this with your attorney. Your commitment date is X. The package is due by Y. Please confirm these dates with your attorney. I'm not an attorney. You're not an attorney, probably. So you do want them to double check that, but it's pretty easy to figure out just by looking at the contract. And I'll show you where we're telling them all this information. And then next is the actual application itself. So these things can be tricky. They can be like misleading. It can be, some of these are like 30 years old. You do want to read through it completely. So just take like, 15 minutes, a half an hour, read through each of the requirements. Most of them are similar. Okay, tax returns, financial statement, bank statement, reference letters, etc. A lot of them are forms to sign, things like that. But the second page sometimes is the tricky page, right? What things need to be redacted, or how do they want the package presented? So just don't assume that you know what's going to happen or what it says. Just read through it completely, because same thing for me. I've been surprised. Like there'll be something in the actual purchase application itself, like a line that says, include the pay stubs after it has employment information, but that wasn't in the list of requirements. So just be thorough. And then lastly, I have here those two things. What gets redacted? So generally it'll say redact all social security numbers on the taxes, or redact all account numbers on bank statements to the last 4 digits, or each one's going to be different. So make sure you know what you need to do with that. And then again, confirming how they'll take the package. You can do this right at the beginning or later, but this is why it's important to have the actual transfer agent's name, the person who's going to be looking at your package and sending it to the board. Reach out to them at some point. I always, one little trick is I'll write to them, and I'll write, 340 East 93rd Street, apartment 19A, quick board package question. It's only going to take a second if you open this email. They're really busy, these managing agents. I'm sure you know that, but generally they're kind of like the bane of our existence, or just like getting answers from them, stuff like that. But so I just try to make it easy. Quick question. Hey, we're working on this package. In the package, it says you need 8 copies. Just confirming that, where it gets sent to, and then that's where you'll get back sometimes. Oh no, it's okay. Just send us a PDF, or just make contact with them, because there may be a question that you have anyway. Like a form is missing that, like it will be in the requirements list, but then it's not in the actual package, a window guard or a house rules authorization. So touching base with them is a good thing, just to get on their radar. Any questions so far? If I'm going too fast too, just tell me to slow down. All right, so the first step with your client, and Catherine and I were chatting before, I think everybody at some point to, prep them a little bit, as you were making the deal for this co-op sale. Hey, look, there's going to be a purchase application. You're going to have to be interviewed. You're going to have to provide, all your bank statements and taxes and get letters and all that stuff. So presumably they have an inkling about what was to come. But this is the opportunity here to kind of lay everything out for them on what they need to do. And I've gotten various reactions. I have a kind of a template email that I send that you can see here on the left. And sometimes it's overwhelming, but most of the time it's like, wow, thank you for sending me this in detail so that they know really like what's to come, what they need to do for each requirement. And this process, as much as it is for them, it's for you as well to know what am I expecting on each one of these? What do I need to have, right? So I start just by introducing, look, here's the package. The package is attached to the email. Here's what we're going to be doing. In this particular case, it's a finance deal. So I'm describing like the timeline. So the longest timeline event is your mortgage because we have to include your loan commitment. In the meantime, we're going to gather all this stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I make some general notes. Look, here's what, if you've got to, here's how you can sign things. I lay out the deadline here, talking about the commitment date, the number of days. I've started putting the actual date in here for them and telling them to confirm with their attorney. Some notes on locking interest rates. Some people lock them too soon, you know, not realizing that this process is going to take 60 or 90 days and they do a 30-day lock and then, you know, then they're extending and that costs money. And then a note about like the interview afterwards, you know. It used to be you had to be in town. Now it's Zoom, so it's not as important. But this part, it's cut off here, but is a copy and paste of this. All of the requirements. And then I just make all my notes. So here's on the application. The application itself, sometimes it's a fillable PDF. Sometimes it's a Word document. Sometimes it's, you know, not fillable at all, right? So I give them options. I mean, we're in the customer service business, so I will try to make it as easy for them as possible. How do you want to do it? You want to handwrite it and I'll type it for you? That's fine. You want to type the answers in an email and I'll cut and paste them. Some people want to fill it out themselves. We'll talk about this more later, but you need to have like some kind of PDF software. If you don't have like Adobe Pro or the company doesn't have it, there's a lot of available PDF softwares. This one's called PDF Expert. I think it was $80 for the license, and it allows you to add documents, remove documents, notate documents. You need to be able to just edit a PDF, combine PDFs, etc. That's kind of essential, I think, to the process these days.
Hey, Christian, we have some questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
And then you may be touching upon this later on because I think one of the questions is around managing a listing agent, but it's sometimes the client does his own tax returns online. Situation agent requesting to be signed and also to provide a letter from a CPA, but the client does his taxes alone. I told her that he does his own taxes and he doesn't need a CPA. She insisted that he needed a CPA. So I think,
is this for a self-employed person?
Marga, if you want to drop in the chat if it's someone self-employed or if they're a W-2 employee for any insight there, and we.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I can answer that question in detail when we get to the Q&A for sure.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
A copy of that email template.
Okay.
I'll let you. Well, I'm gonna save all the keep dropping your questions in the chat. We'll get it at the end. Thanks, Christian.
Yeah, that's for sure. That there's some things that you need. I mean, in those cases, like you can't just say we can't give it. You know, there's ways around things. There's workarounds. So yeah, I'm happy to address that one in detail. So this introductory email to the client, I think, is just essential. It's just telling them, here's what I need from you. Here's the detail on each of these requirements. One of them is explaining how to do the financial statement. This is really important because how are they filling it out, right? So this basically, I mean, you could read it. The package will say, do we need 2 months of statements, 3 months of statements? Does it just say provide financial backup, which would be the last statement? But it's important they understand that all they're doing is copying the balance on that statement, whatever the latest was, and they're using that to fill out the form. Now you're going to check it all, you're going to reconcile it, you're going to go back and use your PDF software to circle the balance so the managing agent can see it, et cetera, et cetera. But just let them know we're just trying to back up the form, and then understanding they need to provide all of the statements. I write it here: cash, your brokerage accounts, your retirement, do you have any student loans, any kind of bank loans, an auto loan, anything like that that's going to appear on their credit report. It has to be provided. They're supposed to be providing like a full accounting of their finances, and all of that has to be listed on the financial statement, and each item on the financial statement has to be backed up with something. I go into more detail about preparing a financial statement in some of my other seminars, but you know, and I'm happy to answer those questions too later as well. But that's an important part about, and then real estate as well. Do they own other real estate? What do we need for that? Their mortgage statement, some kind of justification for the value of the real estate. A gift, if there's a gift affidavit, where did the gift come from? What account is it hitting? Those kind of things. So the knowledge that you have on how to prepare each of these requirements, you're disseminating to them in this email. The tax returns here, just as another example, make sure they sign them, right? That's one of those board package things. But I e-filed, you know, I don't need to sign it. Yes, you need to take page 2 of the 1040 and add a signature on. Every managing agent will require that. So this is where you can, you know, and some of them I don't put anything. I mean, you don't see the full list here, but you know, it says window guard form. I don't need to make comments on the window guard form. They fill it out, and then you get everything in their checking. So breaking down the requirements, saving descriptions, all these little, I call them snippets. Like I have them saved in a Word document and I cut and paste, right? Once you've done this a couple times, take that email from the last one, copy, paste it, edit it per person. You're going to have things that you send them that are attachments. So your pack of sample reference letters, a pack of sample introductory letters to the co-op. Those you should be attaching to this email, talking about what reference letters they need to get, how many, who they're from. You definitely want to have something. I'm sure your brokerage has these tools that you can be adding and attaching here. How do we exchange information? So we want them to be giving us PDFs. We don't want like JPEG scans. So direct them. So for the financial backup, go on your Chase website, download the PDF. That's what you upload. All pages. It's a small file. You'll be able to work with it. We'll talk about handling sensitive information more later, but some people just, they don't care. They'll email you everything, you know, that's fine. Some people, they want it more secure. So your brokerage may have a Google Drive that they use. They may have, I mean, there's any number. Dropbox is very popular. Some people have had bad experiences with some of these file sharing platforms before, so they want to use another one. Basically, however they want to get them to you and however they feel comfortable, that's fine. I mean, one of the things that later on in the process, which I'll point out, when you make that master PDF, that draft of the package, which will become the package, you do want to put a password on that. So anytime you're sending that to a managing agent or sharing it with the listing agent, you want to add your own level of protection by adding a password to the document. We can talk about how to do that. And just a quick note on Board Packager, I do the same email to people for Board Packager. So it's a little bit different. It says you'll be uploading to the site, but you still have to let them know, you know, what they need to be doing to compile that financial statement. What are the details for the reference letters, et cetera. So this is really the start, the jump that gets them working. You've outlined the timeline, you've told them what's expected, you've given them details on all of the things. And the process of you doing this, you're understanding, here's what I need from them, here's what I'm going to be doing to get ready. So it makes it really easy once all those documents start flowing in. You just know, you know what you're doing with all of them, and I'll show you that in a little more detail here. So the next step that I do, and obviously the essential part of a package, being organized and going to the managing agent and into the board is a table of contents and the slides, right? So probably everybody has some templates for slides that they use, and a sample of a cover letter. Cover letter is kind of important. You know, it's addressed properly to the board via the managing agent, the apartment number, what you're giving them, you know, whether it be number of copies, original, etc. And then here's your list again. This is just your requirement list in a table of contents form. What checks are you giving them? And then down here would be like the, you know, broker for seller, broker for buyer, etc. So I just create a Word doc and then convert it to a PDF. But again, you're creating your table of contents to match the requirement list, and this becomes your cover letter for the board package. I print this out, and this when I get stuff, I check it off. Great, I got that. I got the contract. I got this. So you're organizing yourself, and at the same time, you're creating the actual. This is the first page of the package, and then obviously your slides have to match up with your table of contents. 1 purchase application, 2 this, 3 boom 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 boom. And then some of them will have subcategories. So when you get to like your recent bank statements, for example, you would have like a sub slide, cash and banks, brokerage accounts, real estate, etc., or taxes, tax years, right? You don't want to like, if you're giving them 3 years of taxes, you want to split them up. So it may say tax return 2022, 2021, 2020. So you may have some sub slides in there. I know a lot of people, like on each of the slides ahead of the categories, like to list the accounts. Like for example, for the cash slide, they would have like Chase and the balance and Wells Fargo and the balance. Those are all little kind of details, like how people like to do them, how easy they want to make it for the managing agent to find everything. I usually just do cash, all the cash statements, and then I'm circling the balances in red so they can find them. But that's one of the nuances that's up to you. And here again, you know, I create my slides in PowerPoint, and then I save them as a PDF. And then with the PDF software, it allows me to insert all the different pieces, and I'll show you that in a minute. But again, these are your coming from here, your purchase application list, you've created your table of contents and your slides, and then again, as soon as they start sending you everything, you're just dropping everything in. So this is what the view looks like in my PDF software, and it's very similar for a lot of them. The slide view, right? Here's all the pages of this PDF. So I took my PowerPoint slides, converted it to a PDF, and then here's all the different slides. I created my cover letter, I converted it to a PDF, and I inserted it right there. Once they send me their introductory letter, I'll stick it right there. Once they send me the purchase application, I put it in there. And you're just compiling a PDF. You have an easy document that you can share, send, print to if they want a printed package. So this is just an easy way. I mean, again, if you don't have PDF software, there's many, and you might have it on your work computer. Your brokerage may provide, you know, some more robust stuff like Adobe Pro is like the king of all PDF softwares. You can do a million things with it, but there's a lot of simple, really cheap. I work for a smaller independent firm, so I've just kind of had to do, you know, find my own one. This PDF Expert was great. Again, there's any number of them out there. It allows you to add text boxes. You can write on the slides. But this is just a really easy method for compiling, right? Any questions so far before I talk about kind of pulling this together?
I'll just comment that having this kind of view when you're piecing together the package is so important. And if you don't have, you know, Adobe PDF or a system helping you do that, one that I use and love is Small PDF Pro. When I send out this recording, I'll make sure to add a couple PDF options for everybody, because if you don't have a bird's eye view of the package and you're printing things out and shuffling papers around, it's going to be a nightmare. So thanks for showing that view, Christian.
Yeah, I was joking with Catherine before. I started doing this 12 years ago and on a typewriter. Like, so we've come a long way. Like, you don't need to, and people, and you will have to work with. I was working with some buyers a couple of weeks ago, an older couple buying an apartment for their daughter, and they were very much like, why do we have to do this and why do we have to do that? And oh yeah, I started printing things out before and I don't have a way of scanning them. And like, sometimes you really have to help people along, and it's our job to make it as easy as possible for them. But like, the guy didn't understand that you can go on to Chase and like download your statement. Like, he was like looking for his envelope and it was double-sided, and he only gave me like, I got page 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 because he he put them through a scanner. So sometimes you got to coach people through it, but for the most part, people are, can figure things out enough with your direction. But PDF, assembling a PDF is the way to go for a package. And then most PDF softwares will allow you to encrypt, to save it with a password. So just create write the password down on your sheet, something easy for you to remember, make it password like with some exclamation points and caps and lowercase, whatever, that you can give that password to the listing agent. This PDF software didn't have that feature. Preview on a Mac lets you encrypt something. So your computer may also have, whether it's PC or Apple, a way to do an encryption as well. But make sure before, and this is again something that you can discuss with clients who are sensitive with their information, everything I'm sending out will have a password on it. It will be a password protected document. And I usually drop the completed draft into my Dropbox, and then I'm not even attaching it, because usually these become 20, 30, 50 megabyte files. So emailing is sometimes not even an option. So you're sending a Dropbox link and here's the password. So it's kind of like a couple layers of security on there. So you've completed your draft, you shared it with the listing agent. So once it gets to the listing agent, hopefully you've gotten 95% of it right. You broke down the package in the beginning, you remembered to do this, you remembered to do that, you're circling balances, everything's organized, right? You did this from the beginning, just like we went through. You looked at it in the beginning, you knew what you had to lay out, you got the client to give you everything how you were supposed to. They're still going to have comments, and some of the comments might not have to do with like how you organize the package, right? A lot of them have to do with reference letters, right? You can't control what other people write about your clients. A note on letters, because this will be something that you'll invariably end up talking about. If you get a letter from your client that their friend wrote, you got to do some initial, I don't want to say editing, but you got to check it. And in my reference letter packet, it says this, and I'm happy to share it with people. It just says, it's got to have some kind of letterhead at the top. It has to have their name and address, who they are. It has to have it be addressed to the board. It can't just say, to whom it may concern, and then a paragraph and then their name at the bottom. It's got to look like a legit letter. Dear members of the board, a letter should be anecdotal. It shouldn't be like a bunch of adjectives. They're trustworthy and responsible and great neighbors, and that's it. If it's a short letter, tell them we need a little more, meat on the bone here. Or when I'm telling them how many letters they should get, I also say, all right, it says 3 letters, but ask for 5, because the third person that you sent the request to could be on vacation, and then we're waiting for their letter for 2 weeks and we're missing our deadline. Or the person that you thought was going to write you this great letter was really busy that day and just kind of phoned it in, and it's not really a great letter. So like, get a couple extra and then we can fill them in. But invariably, you'll get a listing agent who will be really picky. Pointing out typos, I understand. You don't really want glaring typos in a reference letter, and going back to a reference and saying, hey, you spelled conscious wrong or something, they'll fix it if we didn't catch it in the beginning. But, and again, sometimes when you're reading letters, you'll see things that are red flags in letters, like she loves to play her tuba really loud. She cooks these amazing, like, really flagrant meals, things that are like things that you may want to leave out of a letter. We always have these big, huge gatherings together, like things that would just, yeah, everybody does, everybody wants to fry something up once in a while. It's going to make the hallway stink, and everyone's going to have people over to celebrate their birthday, but we don't want to point those things out in letters. So we got to, those are things you can edit, but you do, to a degree, also have to protect your client. If a listing agent comes back and wants to, like, I think this letter should have this paragraph in front of this paragraph, and like just nitpicky stuff, you can head that off at the pass and just say, look, the letter's good, it's the content is good, it's signed, it's addressed properly. So that's one of the things that you can kind of push back on. We do, and I'd say here, defer to the listing agent on organization and presentation. So if that listing agent, like we were talking about before, like putting the balances on the slides, like if they want you to put the balances on the slides because they think that's going to make the package better, it's not a big deal. You can add that on. Presumably, because they're doing the deal in that building, they know the board, and maybe they really do. Maybe this is the building broker, right? This is the lady on the Upper East Side that's lived there for 30 years, and she knows every little intricacy of what they want to see. You got to listen to that lady. You got to organize the package how she wants. Sometimes they're doing it just because that's how they do it, and it's a little over the top. So you could feel that out, but we do, if it's easy organization stuff, I want to see this document in front of that document. And there's little things too, like, your reference letters should be in order as they're listed on the application, and the latest tax return should appear first, and the order of your statement should match the order that they're listed on the financial statement. So things like that you may miss, that you are still learning, that they'll point out, just go with it. But again, sometimes they can go over the top. You'll know when to push back, but they're really the gatekeeper of the package. So you want to and some of it may be even more important, right? You may be like, all right, your client makes $150,000 a year. You're listing, they made a $75,000 bonus last year. Like, that's a really bonus heavy client. Like, what if that board doesn't really like to consider bonuses? They like to look at their guaranteed base salary. So they're like, all right, I want you to show me like what their bonuses were the last 2 years before that. Are they consistent? Like, that's important information that they're asking for, that the board, that's really like essential to your client passing the board, right? Like, what's their income? What's their debt to income if we don't consider that bonus? So let's prove that bonus history. Or, if you have someone who works for a tech company, like I've worked with a lot of Google clients, and the compensation can be complicated, right? Like, you're getting your total compensation statement, so you make like, X base salary, X bonus, and then here's your stock. But when is that vesting? So is that an asset? Where does that go on the financial statement? So understanding, like, if they want to see things in a certain way, or to prove things in a certain way, back up things in a certain way, like, that's definitely stuff that you want to work with the listing agent on, to make sure that you're presenting the nuts and bolts of these things. Are like, what does the board really care about, right? When the package comes, do they care about your slides and the different forms, and if they're all in the right place? No, they're going to look at how much they make. They're going to look at how much they have after they close, and then maybe they'll read the letters. So those are the client's debt to income ratio and their post-closing liquidity are paramount over everything. So you have to make sure your package is illustrating that properly. And then if the listing agent has feedback on that stuff, that's like super important to get right. And sometimes we miss things too, right? We're assembling a package and we're just you miss something important. There's a lot of layers to this. You're the first person putting it together. the listing agent's checking it, the managing agent's looking at it. So there's like all these steps before it gets to the board. We want to eliminate as many questions and things before it gets even to the listing agent. But yeah, it's going to come back sometimes, and you got to be willing to be able to kind of edit and work through getting the package right, so to speak. That's here too. Post submission changes. So a lot of times it will come back from management and they want an additional document, or something was missed, or we put the wrong maintenance because we didn't look at the contract, you know, things like that. It's definitely a lot of back and forth, but doing all those steps in the beginning, from you breaking everything down, you making sure you have all the right information, you being organized, you having a system for pulling all this together, you preparing the client and getting each what you need from each requirement off the bat, that'll just help prevent all this, any issues towards the end. Yeah, that's kind of what we set out to kind of give you a part of the process. I'm happy to deep dive into more of any of those details or any general co-op questions that you have. I'm ready to answer.
Yeah, so if anyone has questions, feel free to speak up, or you can, you know, put something in the chat. But Christian, I'll circle back. So going back to the question about someone who does their own taxes, doesn't have a CPA, the listing agent is asking for them to have a CPA to write a letter, they are self-employed. So
okay. Do they own their own business? Self-employed, like there's a few different types of self-employment. So for sure, if you don't have an employment letter, you need to have someone verifying that you work and this is what you do. So even if you don't have a CPA, you can get one to write you, and they don't want to embellish. CPAs never want to write what they think you're going to make. It's like them stating the facts about your business. You know, John Smith owns, you know, Supercuts hair salon. It's been in business for 15 years. The revenue for the last 3 years is this, and his K1 income from the business is this, right? And you should also be, if he's a business owner, you should also be providing the business tax returns. And since he doesn't have a W-2 or a 1099, he's going to have some kind of, it's either going to be, depending on whether it's a S Corp, C Corp, sole proprietorship, etc. He's either going to have Schedule C income, or he's going to have a K1 if it's some kind of corporation. So you've got to give all the business information, but you do need a CPA just to state the facts, if you will, about what he does. If he doesn't, yeah, I mean, if there's a real issue with getting a CPA, I mean, sometimes you have to pay them a few $100 to write that letter for you if they're not your well-known like accountant that does all your work for you for years. The only other workaround I can think of is that you've got to have a placeholder, right? There's a requirement in that package that says the employer reference letter, and many of them say for self-employed CPA letter, like they spell that out. The only other option would be to have the buyer write a letter to the board to explain, this is what my business is. I majored in accounting in college. I don't need an accountant. You know, here's why I do my own taxes. Like that would be the last line of defense, is to have them write a letter, because you need a placeholder in the form. But the listing agent's probably going to insist on getting a CPA to write a letter.
That same problem happened to me for an Upper East Side co-op deal, and I ended up having to, the buyers kind of dug their heels and were like, this is ridiculous. Why do I have to get a CPA now just because, you know, of a listing agent or the board telling me I have to? And so they ended up writing a letter, and it was on letterhead. They signed it, and that was my placeholder, and it worked out. So
yeah, and ultimately, you know, you submit, and then if the managing agent tells you we need a CPA letter, then, then your buyer may change their tune, but right, it's like is it the listing agent's opinion? So that's part of you never want it to come back from the managing agent because that takes time. It may have taken them a week, 2 weeks to review it, and then they come back and then you're adding a week, right? You're adding time on so you don't want that to happen, but sometimes they're the tiebreaker, if you will,
Right.
over do we need this or can we get by with this? They
Right.
may think that's fine, and then ultimately you're good. But yeah, I've had buyers write their own letters for other reasons as like placeholders because they didn't have this or that or the other. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like Marga's situation. They reached out to CPAs, but a CPA wouldn't write a letter because they didn't know the client, didn't want to jeopardize their license. Which I see that it sounded like the listing agent just wanted this in the package, but that client got approved and is now on the board. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so the next question, there's two about people really liked the email template that you showed. And do you have that template that you share? And then can you also share the PowerPoint that you went over today? Or how can people learn more about your service? I think that probably ties into what they're asking. So
Yeah, I'm happy to share the presentation here today, the PDF. I can send that to you, Catherine, and you could.
and I can distribute it.
Yeah, and then if they want, they can just email me directly, and I can email them back. Depending on what their deal is, I have a few of these templates for board packager. For if anybody's ever had the unfortunate pleasure of doing an e-apply package for first service residential, I have that one. It's the world's worst electronic board package.
Yep. I've done them twice. It is really difficult.
They're so bad and no one likes them. So I have stuff for that. So yeah, anything you need, I'm happy to share. I mean, obviously my business is to work with you guys for doing these packages for you, working with your clients. I can go in detail if you want to know more about the service. It could be a package that you just don't have time to do. It could be a really complicated package that you're having trouble dealing with. To be honest, most of the packages that I get from other agents are complicated packages with some sort of difficult circumstance because we don't want to deal with it. We don't have time. That's kind of what I specialize in. So you can go on my site, you can see what I do, or you can reach out to me. I'm here as a resource. I love to answer questions. I like people wonder why to talk about board packages, but it's something I've just have a little bit of a passion for. And ultimately, if you think that you'd rather have me work with you to do it, that's what New York City board package services does. But yeah, email me. I'll give the presentation to Catherine, and then feel free to email me directly, and I can send you anything else. Templates like this, the slide. If you want some slides, some table of contents templates, reference letter packets, any kind of resource like that, I'm happy to share.
Great. Any other questions or comments before we end the call? I think this was really great. No? Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think this was really helpful and great questions to everyone who shared in the chat. And we'll be emailing the recording if you want to go back and listen, and then the resources that Christian mentioned. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Catherine.
My pleasure. Bye.
Bye.